today we're going to hear from another one of our own club members, and it is Brandon LeMay. I'm going to tell you a little bit about him and tell you what he's going to talk to you about. He's an assistant chief at the South Bay Fire Department with 20 years in fire service. Prior to his current position, he was a chief deputy state fire marshal with the Washington State Patrol in their Fire Protection Bureau, managing the state's fire inspection programs. He holds a bachelor's degree in fire administration and a bachelor's degree in fire arson investigation with a minor in criminal justice, in addition to being certified executive fire officer. He holds numerous other credentials to include certifications in public fire education and fire inspection. And the reason that I wanted him for a program is you probably noticed, when you watch the news, that how many fires in buildings, whether they're homes or apartments or whatever, are happening almost every day. So we thought it'd be good to have him come and tell us a little bit about what you can do to avoid some of these problems by checking things in your own house you might not think about. So let's have him come up and tell us what we can do to protect our own properties.
Well, thanks, Larry. You about summed it up for me. Good job. Yeah, I'm really glad to be here. This is something I'm real passionate about. I am in the training section mostly now, but prevention is something that's really important. You know, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of operations. And we tend to lose sight of that. A lot of times people think about the fire department, how we're running the engine, the lights, the sirens, the fire, all the operational stuff, which is an important part of it, but avoiding the fire in the first place, then that makes sense to start thinking of prioritizing that. So, this is Home Fire Safety Boot Camp, and some of what I want to do is I want to present this in what I call a train-the-trainer format. Now, one of the concepts I believe in public education and get the word out is, yes, I care about each and every one of you and I want your homes to be safe, but I'm going to challenge you to think not just about your own house when we go through this. You probably know somebody who's worse off than you in some of these deficiencies, and I really challenge you to think about your loved ones, think about friends, how else can you help others, you know, and hopefully take some tidbits. Yes, I hope you get as much out of this for your own house, stay safe on your own, but odds are you know somebody. Can I see a show of hands? Anybody would like to share who maybe have had a significant fire event in their house, their home? Okay, I don't see any, which is a good sign. Can I see a show of hands? Anybody who knows somebody or has somebody close to them who's had a significant fire event in their home? Well, I'm seeing about half. Okay, so I really want to make this an exponential education process. I want to share this with you, but I challenge you to think of other people as well. Just get this, go viral, so to speak. Get the word out. Hopefully you can take as much as you can from this, try to share it with others. All right, we're going to review some fire fatality report data. Some of the information that's recent, mostly specific in our state. I'm going to do a little bit of a national comparative, but mostly we're going to look at data. All the information we're going through is based on fire fatalities. Yes, there's a lot more fires that happen where there's no fatality, but the specific information we're going to go through is based on data that have been fire fatalities. And then we're going to look to identify some common hazards. What did that have in common? What caused that? What can we look at to have caused that? And then ideally, the practices that we can do to avoid those, prevent them, be safe in the first place, and not to have that. Mostly on prevention, and then at the end I want to talk a little bit about during emergency situations when all fails and you are in that position. I got a few things that are really important that citizens need to know that can really make it more effective for the fire department. There's a lot of things people do, I won't say wrong, but could do better to help communicate that and really support the fire department's response and get the information we need. So most of the information, as I mentioned, is going to be based on the 2014 annual fire report. It's the Washington State Fire Marshal's Office does an annual report, and I pulled most of the data that I'm going to be talking about from that. All right, so first let's start and look at where these fires, and again, these are all fatalities. 2014 to 2015 report isn't out yet, otherwise I'd be referencing that. But we had 45 deaths, fire-related deaths in Washington State 2014. So let's look at where they're happening. And you can see by this pie chart, 60% are single-family dwellings. It's a nice way of saying a house. That's really all we're talking about, people's houses. All right? Look at the next largest section, multifamily dwellings. These are apartments, duplexes, anything that has those. But so we're really talking more than 3/4 of all fire fatalities are in people's house. Okay? Now, this report doesn't show the time frame, but I can tell you just every other year, the time where most of these deaths occur is nighttime. Between 10 p.m., 6 a.m. Most of the fire deaths are during night. So we know where they're happening. They're happening in people's houses. When are they happening? Usually at night. Yes, fire fatalities happen. We're in different schedules. Daytime as well. But that's a big piece. So we're going to look at that. Now I want to look at age and gender. Who's dying? And sometimes I say, who are we killing? Because in the industry, we try to give more specific. It's a little more impacting. And if that helps you when you're talking to others, feel free to say, who are we killing? We're killing people by not educating them. We're killing people by not letting them know how they can take care of themselves and stay safe. So who are we killing? The number one demographic we're looking at under the age is those between 50 and 59. We're looking at 26.7% of the people who died are in that age group. What's the second most common age group? Between 70 and 79. Now each year, these kind of play back and forth, but the third, between 60 and 69, so at 11.1%. And tied for fourth, we have those 80 and older at 8.9%, which tied in with, well, several other categories and groups that are in there. So while each year, some of the differences, maybe those between 60 and 69 might be higher than other years, but what we see every single year is those 50 plus account for 64.5%. So we're talking more than 60% of those 50 and older are the ones who are dying. Now I didn't highlight here, this year happened to be an anomaly on, I gotta point out, the 10 and under age. Most every year, that's the second highest group, the kids, those without the same ability and knowledge and what we call capable of self-preservation. 2014, I don't want to call it a good year. Any year, obviously, kids die. It's not a good year, but I could say there are worse years. And most years, 2014, a little bit different, but most years, that 10 and under age, the second highest category, okay? So, who are we killing? We're killing, and then we can make some general assumptions, but those 50 and older, well, I'm told start losing hearing or have a higher chance of being on medications that slow them down. So there's a lot of different reasonings that happen under that. So if anybody here knows anybody in that demographic, maybe you can help them out. But I did want to point out, and don't forget the kids. So really help with that education process. And I'm not going to get too far in today on how to help educate. We have a lot of different programs for children, and most fire departments, I highly recommend you have somebody that has kids in that age. Or we're all most happy to give tours and talk with folks and do that and help that. So back to our statistics here. Those over 50. So I picked on the age. Now let's pick on the gender. So we're looking right there. Males. We're at 60%, and this is actually kind of average, but sometimes it's actually higher. Males tend to die more often in fires. If you ask my wife, it's because, well, women are smarter than men. And if you don't tell her that I'll agree with her, I'm going to agree with her for a minute. Because if you really think about it, and I'm going to be a little stereotypical here, but if you really think about it, in general, if you tell a woman there's a fire in the back room, what's she going to do? Get out, get the kids, get the stuff, take care of things, get out, right? I would say that's pretty smart. Right? That's the message I'm trying to get. Now, let's pick on men. Men, you tell a man, there's a fire in the back bedroom. What is average man going to go do? They're going to challenge that. They're going to go investigate. They're going to bring their garden hose. Now, I'm not saying all men, I'm not saying all women, but it tends to be something in genes where we have that difference, and that's compulsive behavior that tends to kill us, I'll admit it. So, there's fire, let's all get out. Gender doesn't change your survivability. It's only getting out's really going to help you. So, keep that in mind. So we're starting to kind of zoom in on who we're killing. Now we talked about where and when and who. Let's get a little more specific onto the how. How are these fires happening? Now, these change a little bit each year. Cooking is actually normally one of the highest. And I don't know exactly why 2014 was a better cooking year for fires, but looking at number one, smoking. And this is careless smoking. Who's smoking in their bed, who's, a lot of times drugs, alcohol are affecting this. If you're smoking, pass out, and you're not going to wake up when your bed's on fire. But smoking and intentionally set. Those are two very specific public education campaigns that I'm not getting into today. I'm just going to give you advice that, hey, don't be reckless when you smoke and don't intentionally set any fires to structures, okay? We'll bypass that, and we'll just get more specific in on the general home safety stuff, and it's going to include the rest of how events are happening. We do have a high undetermined. The way all this data gets compiled, by the way, to get to the State Fire Marshal's office, to the national database, is all fire departments, there's a legal requirement that they enter in at some form or another, usually software, enter in how and what are the details of that fire. So this all gets added in. The State Fire Marshal's office compiles this, and then it gives us this information. So based on some of this information, what I did for this is took some of the most common, what are people doing to make these fires happen, and I'm going to give you some prevention concepts on there. Smoke detectors. Do smoke detectors prevent fire? No. You think about that, it makes sense. No, it doesn't. Many people get too comfortable. Smoke, that doesn't have anything to do with whether making up a fire. All that's going to do is say, get out when there is a fire. One of the big problems we have is lack of smoke detectors. Okay, so the takeaway points on these charts, this is right out of that report. 33% of the fire fatalities we had in our state, there was just no smoke alarms in the house. Just didn't have them at all. So a third of them just didn't even have it. All right, so one of the terms of change, or we try to be more specific on, is when we're saying, do you have a working smoke detector, not just do you have a smoke detector. So there's a very specific difference, because of the smoke detectors were in there, 23% didn't work. You lose your 9-volt battery, where's the, oh, I know where to get one of those, right? People take the battery out of the smoke detector. They don't replace the battery. They're never got one in there in the first place. The smoke detector was old, expired. Smoke detectors do expire. So, of those that were there, we only had 13 that were actually operational, 43% of those. So I thought, boy, are we the worst state in the nation? That sounds terrible. This is bad. So what I did is I looked at the national data. Are we different? No. We shouldn't be proud. We're average, we're the same. So 40% national data, between 2009 and 2013 of this period averaged out, 40% had an operation. 40% of houses had operational smoke detectors. Surprisingly low. Well, not surprising to me anymore, but maybe many people are surprised that. We tend to think that everybody has a smoke detector that's working, but this is not the case. So I'm sure your takeaway, okay, we'll give you one more. Another national stat, 940 deaths just didn't have smoke detector. 940 fire deaths didn't have smoke detector in there. 510 had smoke, but they didn't work. So we're really talking almost 1,500 deaths because there was not an operational smoke detector. So what's our takeaway? Hey, let's have a smoke detector that works. How about that? Okay? We're going to check it. You hear about changing the batteries. You hear some of these general rules. I'm going to go through some of the concepts and some of the troubleshootings and misconceptions on smoke detection real quick. All smoke detectors, if you didn't know, only are good for 10 years. Got to replace a whole new smoke detector after 10 years. If this guy's campaign was telling me to put a smoke detector in, it's time for a new smoke detector. Broken down where they fail, 2 to 3% after the first year. So it's a pretty good rating. Smoke detectors are fairly reliable. But after 10 years, 30 to 50% of them fail. Up to the 10th year, better, but slowly, progressively getting worse, losing that ability. And they fail for all sorts of reasons. They're all inanimate objects that we're trying to rely on, but most things fail at some point. So, 10 years, right? Replace the whole detector. Now, One of the newer concepts that I don't know how well we've really been at advertising to getting the word out. Now, I'll give you my house, for example. I'm still a good caretaker of my own home. I'm going to have a good example. What are we told we change the batteries when? Daylight savings times. In general, what we'll teach people to do is every 6 months. It's a good rule. You should change that battery out. And that's still a good practice. Now, we have these things called lithium-ion batteries. And this is a newer battery, relatively. More expensive, yes. But, go back to my house. I have very high ceilings. And I scare myself when I'm up changing these things, and I was being good. I'm setting a good example for my kids and wife that I'm changing them every 6 months, just like I preach to everybody. And I'm probably more inclined to get hurt or killed up on this high ladder than I am burning a fire. So I was very glad to learn that a lithium-ion 9-volt battery is good for 10 years in a smoke detector. So a lot of times we'll see in smoke detectors will come with. Some fire departments nationwide, and I've got a lot of friends that are in the fire service nationwide, and some departments have actually put together campaigns where they take smoke detectors, put a lithium-ion battery in it, and super glue it, the thing shut. Kind of a debatable concept, but an interesting one. And then therefore the smoke detector is good for 10 years anyway. And then it's done after 10 years, and they'll clearly mark throw away after this date 10 years later. An interesting idea. I have lithium-ion batteries in my smoke detectors now. I'm tired of getting up there and changing them. Again, these are inanimate objects, and they will fail as well. So, what is that chirp? Everybody know what that chirp? You hear that on the smoke detector? What is that? Low battery. It's low battery warning. It's a good feature that those things have. So, and then I had this experience as well. The lithium-ion battery didn't last the 10 years I was promised it would last. Yeah, if there's a higher draw on the smoke detector, it's starting to fail. If it's got whatever saturation rate that's increasing that, they could fail, and we're glad that they still have that low battery chirp warning. You hear that, swap it out. If your lithium-ion battery is dying in less than 10 years and you still have that chirp, there's something wrong with your smoke detector. Throw it out, shouldn't be doing that. Okay? And yes, if you like getting up on your ceilings and changing them, you can use the regular batteries and change them every 6 months and continue that habit. That's just fine. I prefer to spend a few bucks more and not have to deal with it. Carbon monoxide, there's newer laws that are coming in, but carbon monoxide poisoning accounts for a high rate of death, but not necessarily because there's a fire, but there's something, a furnace, there's a car exhaust. Carbon monoxide is odorless. You can't see it, it's a clear gas. And most of the times when people are dying from carbon monoxide, they go to sleep and they don't wake up. It makes them get drowsy. So if you're already sleeping, you have carbon monoxide increase inside the house, then you just continue to sleep until your respiration and your hemoglobin in your blood gets to that point where your body no longer says, I'm going to survive this, and then you just don't wake up. Carbon monoxide, now I'm not preaching in on a legal thing, it's just a suggestion here. You might see more legal requirements coming in, and there are newer ones where new construction, new housings, and when you sell a house, have to have carbon monoxide. But there are combination smoke carbon monoxide detectors. I highly recommend these. 2-in-1. It'll detect smoke, it'll detect the carbon monoxide, same rules apply with that change in the battery rule. They are a little bit more expensive, yes. You can buy dual, but I recommend having carbon monoxide in there. A lot of times when you hear about people dying of carbon monoxide, they're doing not so bright things like having a charcoal burner inside their kitchen or trying to stay warm on it. There are a lot of things we shouldn't be doing. But even if you have a faulty appliance or a faulty heater, a leak in the garage where your car is parked, I highly recommend having this in your sleeping areas. What you need to know, here's some of the basics. Now, smoke alarms in every bedroom, highly recommended. The most important thing is to have a smoke alarm outside the common area of the bedroom. Most houses are constructed where such that a hallway going down and 1, 2, or 3, or however many bedrooms in that area, right? Yes, some are bedrooms on different parts of the house as well. But having a smoke detector outside the common area where a sleeping area is most important. I mean, yes, a fire could happen in that particular bedroom. More likely than not, a fire occurs somewhere else in the house, and then we want to wake up those people in the room, door closed, door open, however that's working. Having that in the hallway, the common area, the smoke coming down will warn and give that heads up ahead of time. So it is suggested to have one in each of the room, and again, in my house, each of my kids' room and our room has one, and then outside of the common area, each side one has one as well, and then as a minimum, in a common area on each floor of the house. So that kind of trips people up sometimes. It doesn't have to be that complicated of a placement. Suggested test them every month. Now, all my friends, they know me, and they know I was fire marshal, and they know I'm still in the fire service. I come into my friend's house and I go push them. I mean, that's not a very normal, cordial thing, but I do it. I'll take a broom handle and I'll go into somebody's house and hit their alarm. You can push that button, and people get too scared to do that. That's okay. That's what it's for. It's a little test button, and it freaks people out. It'll look at you funny when you tell them, Brandon LeMay told me I can do this. See how that goes. Let me know. I'd love to hear the story. But you can test those anytime. That's what it's for. All it's saying. All it's really doing is saying the battery's good, the system's good, and it will make any noise. It doesn't actually test that it will detect smoke. So there's a little difference there. What you're doing is saying, yeah, the battery's still good, the alarm will still wake people up, and it'll make a noise, and it's supposed to be doing what it's supposed to be doing. That's what that does. It's recommended those are tested every month. Okay? What to do when we do it. Now we're going to get a little more into this later, but what to do when you hear that, get out. I mean, that's what those things are. Get outside, stay outside. We'll talk through emergency actions in a little bit. I already mentioned 10 years, right? Smoke detector is good for 10 years. Okay. Residential fire alarm security panels. These. If you have, I have one of these on my house, but I don't pay the monthly bill. When I moved in, I didn't turn it on. Okay? So if you have this, if you get a monthly bill, then you have one of these. Okay, I'm going to talk just specifically about the fire side of it. What these things do is you've got your smoke detectors hardwired into the house and spread around accordingly. And when those go off, it goes to this box, and all this box does is it sends a signal to the company that owns ADT or whoever the company is that you're going through. It sends them a signal, and it sends a signal to 911, TCOM, dispatch, above Pacific here for us. And it automatically sends out fire department. We've got a residential alarm activation. We're coming. Okay? Now, if you don't pay that monthly bill, it's a local alarm. If you don't have one of these things in your smoke alarms, most of them will just go off in the house. People need to understand that we're not coming automatically. This is to get people out of the house. And I've been to several calls where we get a not so happy phone call. Where are you? Why is it taking you half an hour to get here? We didn't get a signal. You hear the signal in your house. We don't get that notification. Unless you have one of these. If you have this, then it's automatically happening. Now on this one, here's a good piece of information for you. If this goes off, and you pay this monthly bill, it's good to call 911 immediately, even if you just burned your turkey. Because that's immediately going to get us information. We're already coming, lights and sirens. But if you call 911, it's okay to say you can stand down, request you don't respond. You can let us know. The best way to do that is 911 immediately. We can slow down a little bit. We'll continue if you need some support, but we'll settle down. All right? We may not even need to come if you want to cancel us out. Also more important, if you do call 911, that you do get us that critical information. 5 minutes? One. Okay, we're going to go through real quick. Keep your panels clear. If you want us to save your house, we're going to have to get in and shut the power off in order to continue through saving your house. Egress hazards. I've seen a lot of these that where we've been blocked out, and this is not only blocking you from getting out, but this is blocking the fire department coming in and save you. Avoid these. Electrical wiring, be real careful, don't bundle them up too much. These are heat sources, and it's a common cause of ignition if you have them bundled too quickly, too high. Don't have Mickey Mouse appliances, don't do your own modifications unless you're a certified electrician, and that's something that you're more qualified to do. Surge protectors, power strips, I'm not going to fault either one of them, but the big takeaway is highly recommend you look on the back, see if they're UL FM approved. These are actual attested products that these are safe. Don't plug in multiple extension cord to extension cord. You can plug these right in and have all your different appliances going off these, but don't piggyback them. Portable fire extinguishers. When to fight, when to flight. When to fight or flight. If the fire's in the incipient stage, real small fire, you can put that out. That's the general rule. Okay? Too often people think that this is a fire engine instead of a fire extinguisher. It's not for combating big, heavy fires. If it's actually getting into the building, behind the back doors, behind the walls, you're not fighting this, you're getting out. Okay? One of the main rules, the fire should never be between you and your way out. If If you're gonna go in, okay, it's in a kitchen fire, it hasn't spread up through your roof or anything, you're gonna go in, you're gonna use your fire extinguisher, go put it out, okay, do that. But your back better be that best exit to get back out. Never put yourself in between there. PASS is the acronym. Pull, aim, squeeze, sweep. People often forget that there's a pull pin on extinguishers. You gotta pull that out before it'll activate. I've seen people wonder why it's so hard, and you gotta know how to do that. For a house, I recommend an ABC extinguisher. This is a multi-purpose extinguisher. It's good on electrical, whether it's fuel, whether it's liquid, wood, whatever, ordinary construction, ordinary combustibles. Check this. Once, a lot of people don't know, once you hit an extinguisher once, tap, you need a new extinguisher because there's a gasket on it. Once that gasket's broken, it'll slowly bleed away. Eventually it'll be no good. Frequent areas, laundry room, garage, kitchen. Just real quick tips on there. Keep your traps, your everything. I use a leaf blower. I'll actually clean through those things. Use a vacuum cleaner and pull through those periodically. Keep them common area. Common place to have a fire is in that laundry area. Garage, we have a higher increase of hazards. It does have built-in higher construction ratings, but frequently in there. Kitchen, almost always, not in 14, but most always is the #1 place we have ignition sources in a house. And usually something like that. Have a home fire safety evacuation plan. Here's some of the main tips on there. There's a lot of good material online if you're looking for just some support. It doesn't have to be complicated things. Diagram your house, practice, especially with your kids. What are 2 ways out? What would you do if? And a good general rule to know, when do you crawl? When do you walk? When do you stay in? When do you jump out the window? The easy way, people don't always know what to tell their kids. The easy thing to remember is, if you can see your way out, you're going to open your door, you're going to be real careful, you check for heat. You're going to look out. If you can see your way out, walk right out, go out right away. You don't need to slow down crawling. If you can't see it, and it's real smoky and you're having a hard time, good time to crawl. If you can't even see your way out when you're crawling, good time to close the door and you have your backup plan through the window. Or open the window and wait for somebody in a big red fire truck. Wait, be very clear. Main lessons to teach kids that. It's easy to overcomplicate it. It's easy to confuse kids. There's some basic lessons that can save these kids' lives. And that's a good, easy way to remember it and to teach them. Yeah. Yeah, I know.
We got to get done here.
Yeah, all done. You bet. All good.
How about a couple
right.
of questions? Quick
Yeah,
questions.
questions.
Round of applause.
Our main smoke detector is hardwired. Does it need to be replaced every 10 years?
Yes.
So when you say the lifespan of the smoke alarm is 10 years, that means that when you're testing it and you still get a beep, that still doesn't mean that the fire alarm is good.
If they're recommended to be removed after 10 years, even if it's still working, that's the recommended practice to get rid of it.
It's the smoke detection, not the noise, not the battery.
Right. Yeah, the element inside, it's still pushing, beeping may still happen, but the detection process inside is sadistic.
Okay, one more back here and then let's get a wrap around.
What's the best place to locate your extinguisher?
Say again?
The best place to locate your extinguisher?
Well, for your house, it's a different thing with commercial, but for your house, I just suggest buy a new, right out of Home Depot, or just get the little ones. Oh, in the house, yes. One kitchen, somewhere accessible, but where you're not going to block. So don't put it right above the stove, where if it's on fire, you're going to try to get to it. The kitchen, I like right underneath the kitchen sink, least likely area to have that ignition and accessible from either way. Recommend one on each floor. I keep one in the garage.
Not in bed.
Okay. Thank you. Very interesting. Appreciate it. The last two programs we had, one was on making liquor and the other was on golf. So it's hard to find a book for kids, but this one was easy. I think the Three Stooges could have figured it out. So I have one here, going to the firehouse. So if you wouldn't mind signing that, then we will gift that to the South Sound Reading Foundation to give to a young person. So, thank you again.